Hello, good evening, and welcome to Prague Chattery 777. We've been talking about Gentle Giant, and we've made it to Freehand. Oh, what number is this? I'm not sure. Their seventh album, and it's a notable one. I think there's a lot of the hardcore fans that look at it as being, there might be a bit of a compromise because fact of the matter is this is very commercially accessible. Well, it's commercially accessible for a Gentle Giant album anyway. It's still very complex, it's still uncompromising. I'm not really sure they were consciously trying to be a little more commercial on this one. I think they had just gotten to a point with their arranging and with their writing that it just ended up that way. Um, but I think it is a phenomenal album. Again, it's like I said, it's still complex, but it's not to nearly the same extent as, say, Octopus or Acquiring the Taste. It's also not a concept album, just a nice collection of songs. The production values are fantastic on it. It sounds really, really wonderful. Um, Kind of got a cool album cover, cool concept behind the album, title in the cover, Free Hand. See that hand, those hands aren't free. That hand is free. And free hand. So cool. um, like I said, I think the band was probably under a little more commercial pressure at this point than they were before, and you know they're notable for being uncompromising for such a long period in their career. I mean, their second album, Acquiring the Taste, had the big blurb about they were telling everyone how uncompromising they were going to be. They were going to push the boundaries of contemporary popular music at the risk of being very unpopular. But by this point, they were starting to see some success. This was their most successful album, and I think just in general, in the U.S. at least. And when you start to find success, you start to crave success. So, you know, they still hadn't compromised, but I think they had tasted that success and they were starting to want it a little more, perhaps. And like I said, I don't necessarily think they consciously went to make this commercial. It's just where they ended up. This is the third album made by, I guess, the classic lineup of Gentle Giant, where we've got Derek Shulman on vocals and saxophones and other instruments, Ray Shulman on bass, violin, and others, Kara Manier on keyboards, cello, percussion, and others, Gary Green on guitar and others, and John Weathers just laying down that wicked beat to hold all the madness together. So I think that particular lineup, I mean, that was the first long-standing lineup that had made a few albums. So I think the band was just starting to gel as a band, and when you jam with people for a long enough time, you just know how to start making the music work. Um, Obviously the music always worked, and as I've said before, they were more of a composer's band than a songwriting band. But I mean, I'm talking as players. They, were really starting to, know and understand how to play with each other and play as a band. But yeah, let's carry on. I was gonna say less talk the better, but you're tuning in to listen to me talk, so I'll talk. The first song on side one is Gentle Giant classic. We get Just the Same, which has again, it's deceptively complex finger snapping pattern that is like the first thing you hear, and then you get this alternating pattern between the piano and the guitar, ba 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 ba, and the guitar is playing on the opposite end, so ba boom boom and that kind of establishes this weird rhythm, and then boom, the whole band comes in and plays a whole rhythm totally counter to that, and then the vocals come in and it plays a totally different rhythm counter to that. And as I describe it, you think, how the hell is that even listenable? But it is. It's extremely listenable, and like I said, it's listenable in spite of the fact that it's very, very complex. and the drums just kind of groove along, and the bass line is really catchy. Bon, 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 or the bass is going bon, bon, don, don, bon, don, don. So again, you see how complex it is, but it just gels and it just works really really well. And it's got a catchy chorus. I don't know if I'd call it a hook or not, but that gels really well with the verse. And then we get this fantastic atmospheric, ethereal middle section with a great little bit of guitar work. We get a Carey Minear keyboard solo. Solos were pretty rare for this band, but we get that. Nice little bit of saxophone, courtesy of Derek Shulman. Ba-da-da-ba-da-da-ba. It's just great, and then it all winds its way back to the chorus and the crazy complex bit. It's also a bit of interesting interplay where the guitar starts playing the bass riff to reintroduce the verses and that. Just really well arranged, well executed, accessible prog music. I think this is, like I said, I think this is an accessible album. Track 2, we get On Reflection. So this is them doing their trademark vocal fugue kind of a thing. The other really notable one, obviously, is Knots. And I'm really in conflict because I think Knots is one of the best things that they ever did. I also think On Reflection is one of the best things they ever did, so I can never tell which one I like better. Again, I think On Reflection is probably a little bit more accessible, but it still has the really complex vocal stuff. And it goes into a fantastic middle section with a Carey Minear vocal. It has again that kind of Baroque chamber music feel, but there's a stateliness to it, and it's a breakup song really. It's an end of relationship kind of a song, but the song makes you feel so happy. The melodies are so happy. And I'm not sure what kind of musical compositional technique this is, but like the main vocal melody as well as the instrumental melodies that come in at the end when it reprises, it's a really cool thing in which you have a phrase of 4 bars, and the first, you're introduced to the first one, so you hear the melody go for these 4 bars, and then it's the same 4 bars, but you start. The next one that comes in starts at bar 2, and then the next one starts at bar 3, and the next one is at bar 4. So eventually you get bars 1, 2, 3, and 4 lined up at the same time. And as the music plays along, you hear the melody of the first bar repeated and is passed on to the next instrument. And I'm going way too deep into the musical analysis, but listen to it and you'll hear what I mean. It's easier to pick it out at the end when the whole band comes in and you get the guitar, bass, keyboards. All the different instruments play the 4 bars. So what I'm trying to say is that On Reflection is a really good piece of music. Let me get to track 3 of side 1, Freehand, the title track. This is the first Gentle Giant song I ever heard, and I loved it. And again, there's that accessibility factor. It has a funky, fusiony kind of bounce to it, and it is quite extended. There's a very lengthy middle section to it that has the medieval minstrelry. That's what I've been calling it for this whole series of videos. That's the only way I can describe it. That's all built into the long, extended middle section, and the verses are just quite high energy. There's a quintessential 70s-ness about it. It's not really heralded as a classic 70s prog, anthem, but Freehand, the title track, it really is. It sounds so 70s, and it sounds so, in tune with, the best of that era's music. We get the big Derek Shulman vocals, obviously, because it is a pretty heavy number. I think it's about 6 minutes, so it's one of their more extended pieces as well. Very famous piano line that introduces it. Again, the way the instruments interlock, and following Ray Shulman's bass playing along with John Weather's drumming it's such a joy that they lock in so well. Side 2, we flip the album over to get to side 2, and we are treated with Time to Kill. Now, this is another song that I really, really like. And, you know, it's got really weird sounds and rhythms to it. Like the opening, it actually opens with Pong sounds, the sounds of Pong, the old video game. And it goes into this heavily syncopated rhythm with kind of atonal guitar and but then it just seamlessly turns into this really, really excellent funky groove, with this little bouncy keyboard part. And again, the way the instruments interlock is it's so complex, but it's so effortless. And again, the way that John Withers drives it seems so accessible to me. Even though, like, between the verses you get these little weird sections that are kind of, you know, bizarre and unpredictable and whatnot, it's still a brilliant little piece of music. And the second verse comes in and we get the nice vocal bit in the background, which is beautiful. I really like the middle section too, with the He Finds His Way bit. He finds his way! Oh, that is so good. Again, emotive. It's complex, but it's emotive. Music for the heart and the soul. Heart and soul. Yeah, that's a part that really hits me, and the way that the music builds up, and the combination of music and lyrics, I think, is really, really good there. And plus, you also get all the complex musical bits to stimulate the brain. So, classic Gentle Giant song right there. Again, every song on this album is a classic, so you have to buy it. Track 2 of the second side is His Last Voyage. Now, Carrie vocal piece, lyrically, it's kind of a link to Wreck from Acquiring the Taste. His Last Voyage is very subdued, very ballad-like. You know, it's one of their simpler songs, but it still has that Gentle Giant quirkiness to it. I love during the verses the little keyboard, dun 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 dun. That's just beautiful. It just comes in at the right time, and Carrie's voice is fantastic. I particularly like the middle section, and when the middle section starts, it kind of settles into this nice little bass groove. And Carrie Minier does this vocal fugue where it's like the classic Gentle Giant vocal stuff, but it's all Carrie's voice. It just sounds gorgeous. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. And then that kind of funky groove goes into the guitar solo, which, again, Gary Green is a very underrated guitar player. And some of the solos he laid down on these albums are essential. The guitar solo winds its way. It does a reprise of the intro, which is kind of, again, it's weird, interlocky, contrapuntal Gentle Giant music. But when it comes in after the guitar solo and the drums are behind it, you know, you kind of feel the pulse a lot more, which is good. We move on to Talybont, track 3 of side 2. This is one of their most famous instrumentals. Sounds like Robin Hood to me. It's got that medieval feeling again. And it's just a tiny little 2-minute instrumental, but it's 2 minutes of pure joy, and filled with all the technical, you know, musical things that Gentle Giant did and that they did so well. Yeah, it's perfection. They reached a perfection on this album. It's the perfect combination of complex, interesting musical things with the accessibility to, you know, that anyone can listen to it and say, that's nice. I mean, no one can listen to Talybont and say it's not nice. It's so nice. It's outrageously nice. Unbelievably nice. I might have overstretched that one. I like it. That's what I'm trying to say. After Talybont, we get to Mobile. This is a weird song because everyone seems to say that, you know, oh, this is just another song on the album and it's pretty good, but, you know, it's okay. I've always looked. I think Mobile is a classic Gentle Giant song. I think it's wonderful. Again, it's got the kind of riffy, fusiony thing going on, but it's also the violin showcase of the album. It's also got some really, really great, you know, funky violin playing, and I love the changes that pop in. I really like the verses. I guess it's comparable to the title track. Freehand, the title track is better than Mobile, but Mobile is still, it's still really good. I think, I think really Mobile is just overshadowed by the fact that every single song before it is really, really, really good. I mean, you've got Just the Same, Gentle Giant Classic, On Reflection, Gentle Giant Classic, Freehand Classic, Time to Kill, I think it's a classic. His Last Voyage, I think it's a classic. Talybont, classic. Mobile, I think it's classic as well. This is an absolute A1 album. It's part of the big three. Like I said, the big three Gentle Giant albums. In my opinion, you are totally free to disagree, and you're probably right, but I'm right some days. I said my top three is Octopus, Acquiring the Taste, and Freehand. Freehand is the most commercial of those three, but that's why I think it's really good. Is it's that perfect balance of commercial and complex. That shows the band right at their prime, and it's kind of the peak of that proggy era. They a couple more albums they did after this, which is kind of in that spirit, and then they did the unthinkable. Really, they went full blown commercial overnight pretty well, which you can't do. I mean, Genesis did that because they got commercial very, very slowly over the course of a few albums. Gentle Giant, basically, there's one transitional album, and then it's just like, boom. And it's a bit shocking if you listen to it all in order. But we're going to get to that stuff as we move along. So obviously, get Freehand. It's a brilliant album, and very worthy of anyone's collection. Stay tuned next time, where I will have this put away, and we'll be talking about Interview by Gentle Giant, which it's a very interesting one. I kind of like that one. So we'll see you then. Take care. Eh?